It was very clear to me that one group of people was saying something and full of shit, and another group of people was actually living it and not selling anything.
If you scroll back on Mike's Instagram feed, like back in 2020, it's literally all girls, events, parties, like all the time.
Yeah.
And like to peel back the Iron Curtain a little bit, like tomorrow is Mike's birthday. Happy early birthday, by the way. And there are like 4, 5 guys, like all the guys going to that party are like in this room plus like one more. And then it's like 80 other girls. So like that's what Mike's life is. Like typically, like you typically hang out with a lot of women. You have a ton of female friends. When we went to Paradise Challenge and we're going to Swimsuit USA in a couple of weeks, like you introduced me to so many other women. And I feel like I've met so much of your social circle, knowing you for almost 3 or 4 years now. And I still meet new women all the time and like hundreds of them. And so it's just like, it's phenomenal the amount of like the network that you've created. And honestly, like I've never met or seen anybody with the type of network that you have. Like it's honestly super impressive. And I'd honestly like to ask you, like, what is like, why did this like come about? Like why did you see this gap? Like, hey, you know, I don't want to hang out with these guys. I want to hang out with these women over here or these men over here. Like why was that gap? And then like, how did like Men of Action even fit into that?
So there's a couple things. I will definitely tell you that me being a DJ at a strip club 25 years ago and actually seeing like a truth between the way men and women treat each other. Now, obviously, that is not indicative of all men and women. That is probably the more toxic nature of men and women. But just getting to see that Disney, the church, and my family was telling me things that just weren't wrong. If I just be nice to girls, they'll be nice to me back. That wasn't true, right? That was a red pill moment for me, even though I'm red pill adjacent. And it's funny because that at the same time that was happening in my life, Rollo was writing his first book, right? It was around the same time in 2003. And so, he started writing his first blog post, then the first book came out in 2013. And at the same time, that's when Neil Strauss was writing The Game back in 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. And so from that situation, that was the first point where I came to a realization that the dynamics between men and women, number one, were different. And number two, the way we operate with each other, while it can be harmonious, is often toxic. And we should at least be honest about that, right? I was seeing signs of domestic abuse, drug use, stuff like that. And it was the first time I'd ever seen it up close. The second thing for me that happened was in 2007, I started hanging out with, I was exposed to guys in the pickup community probably 2005. And then I started hanging out with Mystery and Matador and those guys probably in 2009. But in 2007, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and while I was there, I met a group of club promoters. And these club promoters, they did this weird thing. They had this thing called Armada Magazine. If anybody from Vegas or from Atlanta, you guys know who I'm talking about, Max Smith. I still talk to Max. He's awesome. I would listen to pickup artists say toxic shit about women and sit there and lie about who they were sleeping with. And then I would go out with this guy named Max and this other dude named Rocky, and his name's Josh Garrett, and we would go out and they'd have spiky hair and these guys were like in shape and they wear cool clothes or whatever, and they would just wave their hand and 70, 80 girls would show up to everything they were doing. They were always dating the prettiest girls. Like it was very clear to me that one group of people was saying something and full of shit, and another group of people was actually living it and not selling anything. And I was like, I wonder if someone could teach that. Do you know, like right now, there is no course on how to be a club promoter. There's nothing like it, right? We have a very, very popular club promoter in New York is one of my clients right now. He's out with Leonardo DiCaprio right now. He's doing his own thing. And this kid's like 20 years old, 21 years old.
Yeah, he's crushing it. Honestly, I remember when he joined the program and I was like, and now he's just absolutely destroying it. And it's so cool to see his progress.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So when you see that, I was like, okay, there's something here. I don't want to be a club promoter, and I don't want to teach guys to be a club promoter, but there's an aspect of what they're doing that works better than what I see these other guys doing. The get drunk, drink a beer, eat a pizza, watch a football game, and just hit on some girl while you're drunk and fat wearing a football jersey. And then the other guy is like, be this so suave, like Lothario that goes to the club and just hits on every girl, promising fecundity and fucking long-term sexual commitment while at the same time fucking 9 other girls. Like somewhere there's a piece here that's missing. And then when I met, I started hanging out with Tyler Owen Cook and RSD. I started going out with them every weekend, probably 2011 or 2012 when I got out of the military. And me and Tyler would go out every weekend and hang out. And he introduced me to Ty Lopez. And Ty had a book club. And in the book club, he had every book by Dr. David Buss in the book club. So I start reading Dr. Buss. After the second book, I'm like, this guy's a Longhorn? Fuck yes. He's a Texas Longhorn. This is awesome. And I started reading Dr. Buss, and he started talking about, at the end of Evolution of Desire, he talks about men creating teams, men consorting with other men in order to gain access to resources, to gain access to protection, and to gain access to women. And I was like, oh, this fits in our evolution. Does that make sense? So I saw it personally with my own eyes, the dynamic between men and women. Number two, I saw that the networking aspect of it gains you incredible levels of access. And then number 3, there's actually books about, natural selection that show that our ancestor did this thing. So this is a real thing. It's never going to go out of style, and it fits in our characteristics as Homo sapiens, and it will never go away. And so this is evergreen content, right? So that's where I came to it. And then the 4th thing was, once the red pill community got started, and there's still like still remnants of pickup, the whole thing became women are the enemy that you're figuring out in order to conquer the enemy to get the vagina. Like,
it became this like really
Yes.
toxic community. I was like super deep into it too, and it was very like it started off from such a wholesome good
Yes.
place, like hey, we're just lonely men, like we want to get there,
Yeah.
and then it turned into this just like really nasty, like spit on women, call them dogs, and bark at them, and it was just like it was really terrible. And I'm glad that a lot of us came through that, and we all got out of it, and then you started with where you're at right now.
So there were some
One thing I will add is just like meeting you completely changed my life. I know you have a debate here coming up with Cold Approach for a Social Circle, and it's like kind of the combination of the both. Because when I was just going out meeting girls, it was like Thursday, go to the bar, try to meet a girl. Friday, go to the bar, try to meet a girl. Saturday, go to the bar, try to meet a girl. A year later, go to the bar, 3 years later. And then when I started meeting Michael, and like one of the pillars that we teach is like high status networking. And like to me, that's one of the favorite things that we teach is, and what I'm so proud of what we do is like we teach people the number 1 skill to accomplish any goal of life, which is like how to build a social network. Because as the saying goes, not what you know, but who you know.
And who knows
like,
you.
Yeah, and like to me, the way I kind of look at that is if it's not what you know, but who you know, then there's no amount of information you can ever consume that can help you accomplish a goal faster than your network, no matter what it is. And then as clients see it firsthand, as their network increases, the quality of the people increases as well. So whatever your goal is, whether you need a website, whether you want to look for a business partner, whether you need a client, whether you want to get in better health, where you want to get a girlfriend, the bigger your social circle is and the better quality it is, the more likely someone in that social circle is a person or knows a person that can help you out. So like kind of learning from you, it went from kind of mainly just pursuing girls to becoming friends with the opening DJ at Access and getting backstage. We were hanging out with Dan Blazarian the other day. You were speaking at Ty Lopez's event. So
shout out to Pauly D. DJ Pauly D is DJing at my my birthday tomorrow night.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So here's the thing. Another thing. Let's go back to it. I'm not saying I didn't appreciate it. It's just I guess the information wasn't around back then. Before, the information went like this. There was a message board, and the message board said, "Hey guys, here's how to get the 9s and 10s," and then they would give anecdotal experience. Much of it was exagerated.
Oh, I remember those forums.
Okay?
Yeah.
They were
super exaggerated.
But there was no scientific method. There was no let's debunk this thing. And also the other thing that I love about scientists is that, and I have a background in physics, and this is the reason why I use the scientific method for almost everything we do in this company. We A/B test things, and we try to disprove our own hypothesis. One of the things I love is that if you're a scientist and something doesn't go right, you're like, oh, that didn't go right. That didn't go the way I thought. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You still get more grant money. Like you still have a job when you do an experiment and it fails. That's actually better. Right? Does that make sense? And so that's something that I loved about this idea. So here's the thing, going back to what you're saying, we use science when we talk about networking. When it comes to apes, so we'll talk about orangutans, or chimpanzees. They're their closest descendant. The difference between the genome and an orangutan and a Homo sapien is 1.5%. There's very small difference, right? Which is incredible when you think about that. We are 98.5% related to chimpanzees. I know a lot of people are very angry that I just said that, but it is true. You guys can go look it up for yourself. So here's the thing. In their cause, what will happen is you'll have an alpha male, and the alpha male will dominate and have sex with 75% of the women in their harem of women. And what will happen is 2 men who are not as alpha as him will all of a sudden come, and these, not beta males, but just below the alpha, they'll team up together and they'll displace the alpha. Does that make sense? And so Dr. Buss talks about this in his book. And then what happens is one of the guys who used to be the alpha, he then teams up with other people and then he takes over. It's very much like tag team matches in the WWF. You know what I'm saying? And so the networking is something that is so absolutely pervasive that our ancestors that we bifurcated from 6 million years ago, they still have the same necessity to network in order to win. So the point is, I can't go. Sometimes when Brock the bartender wants to kick my ass and I'm 5'4", I can't beat Brock the bartender. But if a bunch of us that are 7s go up against Brock, we're going to win. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if I can get enough people on my team, then eventually we win. And so that's the concept that comes from evolution that we teach these guys. Now, here's where the concept is different and other people don't see it. What if I did this with women also? That's where the part that I understand having 5. I understand it, like if I'm Kareem and I have Magic Johnson on my team with James Worthy, I understand I'm a better team because I've got better players with me. But what I don't understand is the idea of me being a single guy and having CJ Sparks and Kindly Myers go up and talk to women and be like, Michael's fucking awesome. And then I don't have to do any work and those girls want to network with me, ask me for my number and want to date me. That concept was outside the field of anybody who was in the red pill community still, and out except for Rolo. He's come to the realization of it, and absolutely anybody in pickup, no one was teaching this concept. Maybe after he got out of pickup, maybe Max Torno was, but for the most part, nobody was teaching this concept. And so that's where the difference, where I saw the differences. And the last thing, going back to 2 points you made ago, was the last thing that I saw that was missing was when I moved to Vegas, and Char, you absolutely were a part of one of these stories. Women were treated like cattle, especially when they do atmosphere modeling
so
gigs.
many stories.
Women were treated like cattle. And my whole thing was like this, what if we could have the same amount of status and success, but not treat them like cattle? And they actually, like some of these girls, instead of always having to be compensated to hang out with us, what if they actually wanted to hang out with us because we liked hanging out with them and because they had a good time? I had a theory. I could have been completely wrong about this. All these club promoters / pimps that lived in the city who treated women like fucking cattle. It was like, hey, Sartain, when are you going to bring your hoes to my club? I'm like, bitch, hoes? They're not my hoe. Slavery was outlawed in 1865. They're not, I don't own anyone. When I was like, what if I don't treat them like cattle? What if I do something that they actually want to do and then just basically turn this into Mean Girls? We're like, Regina George. Like I tell the guys in Men of Action, you're always looking for Regina George. If you find Regina George, then all the girls will pink with Regina and they all go to the thing that you want to go to. If Kindly Myers come to your event, Lizzie Acosta will come, all these other, Viho will come. There's like 10 girls that will always come. If Caitlin Runt comes to your event, there's like 4 or 5 girls that will always come. If CJ Sparks come to your events, there's like Chloe Teray will come. There's a bunch of girls that will come. What about that concept? So the same concept of networking, what if we did that with women and then actually treated them the same like we treat guys and just didn't have this derision and sort of this adversarial nature to it? And it was an experiment. I didn't know if it was going to work, but it did work.
Nobody at the time was doing that. Like everybody was doing the total opposite of that. So you like definitely went against the grain there.
Yeah.
I was hiring we hired like 20 plus girls to come to the club. We would do all of the footage of the club and do social media at the time. I don't even think it was like Instagram just launched that year or something. It's been that long.
Okay, so you're talking about, I worked with a company a long time ago. We hired Shar a long time ago to be an atmosphere model for us.
But then you had me start to hire the girls.
Yes,
I'm
for sure.
talking about how this was sort of like resonated with his personal story back in the day. The reason why the girls would come to our events and say, yeah, I'll come do the atmosphere that night is because they felt safe.
Yeah.
Like the guys weren't crummy hitting on them or saying dumb shit or
Yeah, so atmosphere models in the city they'll get a job. They'll be able to submit for certain jobs, and they would always want to work for us because we didn't treat them like cattle, because they would have a good time and like nobody would hit on them. And like specifically, like kind of the worst situation you could be put into as an atmosphere model is the concept of like you go somewhere and the guy just thinks he has the right to touch you. You understand what I'm saying?
We kick them out.
For sure.